Brady. I am here with Adam Bryant, who is Senior Managing Director of the ExCo Group. Also, of course, Adam, I know you as the former columnist at the New York Times doing the corner office. Nice to see you.
You too, Diane. Thank you.
You've got a new book out, The Leap to Leader, How Ambitious Managers Make the Jump to Leadership. This is your fourth book, right, on leadership?
Exactly, yeah.
I want to start by asking, especially as a journalist, what have you gleaned in the move to now working with leaders? Because you must get insights that you didn't get when they were coming to you on their best behavior to get into the New York Times.
Yeah. So I left journalism about 5 years ago to join the ExCo Group. Our core business is one-on-one mentoring at the C-suite level. We also do work with leadership teams and cohorts of up-and-coming leaders. You know, a few insights. I mean, as I've spent more time in big companies, things that sort of pop to mind. One is that the simplest questions are the hardest. You know, the simple question of what is your strategy? I find that that's as easy it is for companies to come up with an answer to that question, the answer that's clear to everybody and that provides actual direction for the company. I mean, I didn't go to business school. I used to assume that when somebody said the word strategy, that everybody knew what that meant. But I've come to appreciate that that word itself is kind of a Rorschach test, you know, classic ink blot. It means different things to different people. So, you know, some of the patterns that I've seen are just when you ask people, like, what's the strategy? People go to very high altitude and essentially provide a job description for the company, right? They just describe what the company does rather than what the plan is, or they dive really deep into the details and give you their to-do list for the next quarter and say, this is our strategy. So that's one of the challenges. I mean, I think one of the most universal leadership challenges too is around self-awareness. I mean, we all have an intention of how we want to show up in the world. But perception is reality when you are a leader. It's how people perceive you. And I think one of the biggest challenges for senior leaders is just to make sure that they can close that gap between how they want to show up and how they're actually perceived. You know, some of the other key lessons around communication. If you're a senior leader, you might be saying to yourself, like, why do I need to say this again? I mean, I just said it at the last all hands meeting.
Right.
And the point is, you've got to just keep repeating it. You almost have to be like a politician with a stump speech. And part of, to me, one of the key insights I heard from a CEO was that you can never leave a void of communication, because if you leave a void, people will fill it with their own narratives. And they will often go to very dark places if you leave silence. So even if you're just repeating the same thing you did last week, it provides some comfort and certainty to folks.
It's true. Yeah, transformation can mean layoffs or it can mean, you know, growth, right? Depending on how you define it. So let me ask you about this particular book, The Leap to Leader. I mean, has anything really changed? Let's look at the trajectory of the leap to leadership, you know, say when you were doing your column versus today, because everybody talks about how much the conditions have changed in business. I would assume the conditions for being a great leader have not changed that much.
Well, I think they've gotten exponentially harder just in the last few years since the pandemic. And what I'm finding is that I feel like there's a bit of a tailwind at my back with this book, because it feels very timely, because you know, in a lot of our interviews with leaders and in our work inside companies, one of the most consistent themes we are hearing is that companies need their managers to step up as leaders. And to me, one of the, you know, the basic distinctions between the two is that the historical model for a manager is like, give me the playbook and I will execute it. Tell me what to do. And we're just in this world now where there is no playbook. We're all writing it together. Every week there's some new challenge. There's really difficult conversations. There's balancing acts around, like, how do you be compassionate with your team while also holding them accountable and driving performance. And so to me, there is this important mindset shift where you're not just sitting there like, tell me what to do. You guys are giving me mixed messages. I don't know what to do. Where companies need their managers to step up and start, you know, just embracing the idea that it is my job to figure things out. And it is, like, again, pick a number, but I do think leadership is 5 to 10 times harder for all the reasons we all know, right? Just the the sort of walls between the outside world and the inside world of companies are blurring. Companies are being looked to solve every problem and issue in society. The mental health issues, the Zoom culture, it just goes on and on. So managing is harder, leading is harder. So what I tried to do is basically provide a bit of a playbook, like what does that mean exactly, and how do you do it?